you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Professor Dankol and Dr. Lalit. Actually, I must thank Dr. Lalit for inviting me. When I was invited, I said, okay, I'm working on renewable energy, but I'm now talking about the biodiversity and renewable energy. Okay, so basically, we know renewable energy use in the world is still less than 20%. So still most of the world energy comes from non-renewable sources, mostly coal, petroleum and natural gases, and some from nuclear. So this most of you know about these, the pros and cons of renewable as well as non-renewable. Now, if you first consider the non-renewables, they are cheap to use and the energy density is high. So you need only a small amount of material to generate enough electricity or enough energy. But the problem or cons are that they will run out someday. For example, the petroleum may run out within our lifetime or within our children's lifetime, most probably. And also, they are causing serious environmental damages. Also, they release toxic gases, which are contributing to global warming, greenhouse gases. And most importantly, to everybody, the price is always going up because the supplies are limited and the supplies run out. So the price will go up all the time. Renewable energy, on the other hand, we can say practically the quantity is limitless, although there are actually limits, but the limit is very high. So we can say they are limitless. And the energy is usually free, for example, solar, and environmental friendly. But on the other hand, the energy density is quite small, and so we need large areas or large amounts to get the enough amount of energy. Again, non-renewable energy, there are mainly fossil fuel and nuclear energy, but I will not discuss about nuclear energy here because in Sri Lankan context, we use mostly fossil fuel. So when the fossil fuel are burned, they release large amounts of carbon dioxide, greenhouse gas, and also you all know these things. So I'm not going to elaborate on these. Already the average global temperature has increased by 1 Celsius. So if it goes above 1.5 Celsius, scientists predict that there will be serious consequences such as extreme weather conditions, biodiversity loss, and species extinction, as well as effects on humans like food scarcity. So in 2018, about 89% of carbon dioxide emissions came from fossil fuel and industry. So what's the solution? Of course, the solution is non-renewable. So when you say non-renewable, most of the people think about solar energy, wind power, biomass, and also, although not yet in reality in Sri Lanka, geothermal energy, also hydropower. So these are some of the renewable energy sources. Solar energy, hydropower, wind power, geothermal energy, tide waves and OTEC, biomass and biofuel, and other. Because I am working on renewable energy, I would like to discuss a little bit about the other things, but I will not go into detail, but there are other sources such as thermal electricity and human power, of course, not a new one, but hydrogen fuel cells, artificial photosynthesis, nuclear fusion, bioluminescence, even sonoluminescence. Okay, so this one is showing this small circle is showing the world energy demand. That is about 16 terawatt years annually. And this large circle is the amount of potential solar energy. So it is said that the solar energy we receive on the earth per day is sufficient for 1 year for the whole world. And then next is the coal, and then uranium, nuclear power, petroleum, natural gas, then wind power. Yeah, and then other things are coming. But of course, these are just the potentials. These are total amounts. But wind power and other things, these are renewables. Renewables are potential, annual per year. But of course, you cannot harvest all these energies, all the total potential. You can only harvest a small percentage of these energies. Solar energy, the most efficient way of using solar energy is using for heating and drying. We have been using them for a long time, maybe for thousands of years, maybe even more. And of course, when it comes to solar energy, there are heating, solar thermal, solar electricity, solar thermal photovoltaic. That is using the heat of the heat and light both of solar, and there are some bio solar panels as well. Yes, this heat transfer is 70 to 80% efficient. So that's why I said it is the most efficient way of using solar energy. But of course, we need to convert solar energy into electricity for other needs. That is where the solar cells come. Now, the solar cell prices, this is 1977, the prices have gone down a lot. It is even lower here. So it has the price. This shows that it has become affordable. But most of the people, when they think about solar energy, they think, okay, this is very clean energy. It has no emissions, nothing. But some of you are not aware that to create solar cells, you need to have huge amount of energy, because the purification, the melting of silica and purification process, it uses a huge amount of energy. Usually it is said that you need to use a solar panel for 5 years continuously to create the amount of energy you needed or you used to produce that solar panel itself. So behind the solar panel, it has a side dark story. So that's why I put this card. It says it's kind of disappointing that they make solar energy panels, because you have to use some energy, quite a large amount of energy to produce solar panels. And when it comes to biodiversity, there are land and habitat loss, because solar panels, you can only produce a certain amount. You cannot increase, because amount of solar energy you receive is about the maximum theoretical value is still like 1000 watts per square meter. We can only get, even the most efficient solar panels will produce only 20% efficiency. But that is when the sun is perpendicular and everything is in ideal condition. Yeah, so again, this one needs a lot of land. If you are talking about megawatt, you can calculate, because you need at least 5 square meters of solar panels to produce 1 kilowatt. Again, wind energy, again, that is seen as very clean energy, but again, it has negative effects on some fauna, some biodiversity and some animals. It's estimated that about 234,000 birds and 52,000 bats are killed annually from United States alone. That's why I put this one. And okay, people see this picture, which is dirty energy, that is oil spills killed birds. but sometimes they don't see this picture because that is seen as a clean energy. And also this has a noise pollution. If you have been to area with wind farms, you don't want to live there because it's 24 hours, 7 days a week. There's a humming noise coming and you don't want to live in an area close to a wind farm. So these are some of the problems with the negative sides of wind energy. And again, there are land use and habitat loss because this needs huge amount of land, open land, and also these are usually on the shores. So remote windy locations are also high conservation importance of avifauna. So, so to mitigate this, we can identify areas with low biodiversity and locate these wind energy facilities. Sometimes, occasionally, there are some positive effects of the wind farm on because some land animals such as tortoises, they have increased their population because the predators population have gone down. Okay, hydroelectricity. Again, one of the major drawbacks in hydroelectricity is the large amount of land you use because to store water, you need a huge reservoir. So it floods a huge area. So that affects the environment. Also, it fragments the habitats, and that can affect the biodiversity. And also, in energy terms, this is unreliable in the sense that we know that when there's a weather, there's no enough water to produce electricity, so these are not functioning. And also initial cost. So globally, hydroelectricity contributes to about 16.2% of global electricity production. In Sri Lanka also, it's around that or maybe a little higher. But we have reached almost the limits of production of hydroelectricity. And when it comes to biodiversity and habitat loss, that is quite high. So that the major driver of habitat loss and change of due to fragmentation. And they can also they do the extensive flooding, and sometimes they can create. Occasionally, they can create habitat for some animals. This is reported in Brazil, like giant otter, because there are small artificial islets. So some animals, it is a positive thing. And also sometimes the verticality can decline. The sediment loading and nutrient cycles can have negative environmental effects, such as eutrophication and eventually affecting the biodiversity. Some hydropower plants can emit large amount of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane. Okay, this the wave energy and OTEC. This is not very popular in Sri Lanka, and the main reason is the initial high cost, and the amount of energy you produce is not much. And you have to have some installations on the seabed and on the seashore, so they can actually interfere with marine animals. So I'm not going to details because I think somebody else will discuss this in detail. Bioenergy and biomass. So there are two ways of using bioenergy. One is the biochemical conversion. That is like you produce ethanol or biodiesel, and that is including digestion and fermentation. And also the second one way is the thermochemical conversion. And this one also is, although it is renewable energy, this actually produces some carbon dioxide. But one can argue that again, when you are growing forest, you absorb the carbon dioxide back. So in some countries like Brazil, they use large arable areas for sugarcane production. And sometimes in some countries like Malaysia, they use land for oil palm cultivation. And that can have some effects on biomass and biodiversity and animals. Of course, when you run out of gas and electricity, you can use this sophisticated way, the thermochemical conversion of biomass into bioenergy. That is very sophisticated way of telling you use a dharalipa. Yeah. And geothermal energy, I just want to mention this because I am working on this, and that is the energy of the earth, the heat from the earth. You can use it to generate electricity. So this is just a sketch. Basically, okay, this is a simple sketch. You use, you pump the water into the ground and get it heated, and use a heat exchanger, or if it is hot enough, you can directly use the steam to drive a steam turbine. So the major drawback is the high initial cost, because the R&D part and the drilling part cost a lot. But once installed, it's quite cheap to run. And usually this has a very little impact on the biodiversity and the environment, because the installations on the ground is very small. Even a small area like few acres or even few perches, less than an acre, is sufficient. But again, some sites may contain poisonous gases such as hydrogen sulfide or sulfur dioxide. But in Sri Lanka, we have found that there are no such poisonous gases because this is not a volcanic region. Usually, we use water to cool. In the previous one, there's a cooling tower. So this cooling tower, sometimes we can use, we can recycle this water, but if we release it to the environment, it can affect the biodiversity. This is hot water springs, and again, this is the one in Trincomalee, Kenya. One of the problems associated with it is that sometimes the increase of tourism also can affect the biodiversity. There are other options, that is saving energy. So rather than finding more and more energy, you can find the ways of techniques of saving energy. So this is one of the ways, that is thermoelectricity. Thermoelectricity can convert heat directly into electricity. And this is a small device we produced. This can run off a tea kettle, and it can charge a mobile phone. Or you can use solar power. You can use any manure or biomass or any sort of heat to generate electricity. So some of the modern applications, but you can see that you can actually buy these things. This is a cooker produce, and while cooking, you produce some electricity which provides light and electricity to charge your mobile devices. And this is a boot which can charge your mobile device using your body heat. And this is also a watch. It's produced by Seiko, and they use the body heat to generate power. And modern cars, some of the European cars, they have these TEGs fitted, and they can generate power and they can improve the overall fuel efficiency. And of course, I will not talk about the human power. We use human power all the time. And microbial fuel cells and bioelectricity, again, I will skip that. Just want to tell that these things exist. And scientists are working on these as renewable energy, bioluminescence, and hydrogen fuel cells, and artificial photosynthesis. And yes, not nuclear fusion also, although this may sound like non-renewable, actually hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, as well as on the earth we have sufficient hydrogen, lot of hydrogen, because water is made of hydrogen. So if you can use the nuclear fusion to fuse hydrogen, you can get very clean energy, and it does not produce any radioactive waste. And with that, I will conclude my talk, and thank you very much.